care about the future, cause they live it in the past. Sal and Kurt are taking all 5 seasons of Blossom to task. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be weak in the knees. This show's got more range than Nick on the keys. Only gal in the house, and that's how she goes. One brother was a junkie and the other one was. Weekly lessons coming fast in the Russo flat. Blossom's teenage girl problems are as big as her hat. So take your opinionations and make them shine. It's the OK Bloomer podcast, and it's about damn time.
Don't know. Don't know.
You ready to bring it this week?
I'm ready to go, man. It feels like it's been a while since we've done this.
Oh, it's already been brought my friend.
Okay, now you're just going over the top and using that just to prove a point.
I kind of forgot about it till last show, and I've been using it constantly. So rewarding. Such a good line.
Awesome.
Thought you'd appreciate that. Week 9. We're almost at double digits.
We're actually almost done season 1.
What? No way.
Yeah.
How many episodes of season 1?
14.
That's it?
Yeah.
What a lazy show. 14 episodes for season 1?
Yeah, but that's usually how it goes, right? It's like they make the pilot, and then if it gets picked up, it'll get like 6 episodes. Yeah, and then it'll go like...
Not in 1991. 1991, if you had a sitcom, you were doing like 24, 26 a season. No questions asked.
Blossom started as a mid-season replacement. So it didn't start until January in the rotation.
All right, that's right. That's fine. I remember getting the season 1 of X-Files on DVD, and there was like 32 episodes.
Oh, man.
Jeez.
And they were all an hour, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a commitment.
But to be fair, if you cut out every scene of Mulder and Scully just walking somewhere holding their guns, it was probably down to, an hour and a half tops for the entire season.
They could just recycle the same shots over and over again.
Pretty much. They started recycling the same storylines, so it's not too far away.
Never watched it. Never
You
got
never
into
watched X-Files?
Nah.
Oh, man. If you notice all the shows that are written like that, like Lost and kind of X-Files and Twin Peaks, they're all one-season shows. Like, you can write such an incredible first chapter when you're writing that style of television, but it's not sustainable.
I find that about a lot of shows, though.
I feel it's way worse with the shows that are, like, mysterious, because after a while, I think we've talked about this, you gotta start answering questions.
Right.
Or people will lose interest. But once you start answering questions, people lose interest. So you gotta have a tight 2 seasons and call it quits.
You would think that. I wonder if they go into it being like, in my head, I'm creating this show, and I have a 4-season story arc. By the time I got around to watching Lost, I was like, I'm just so tired of this format.
That's fair. X-Files was a little different. X-Files was more episodic. They were more standalone with like one big arch. It never gave you the cliffhanger. Each episode kind of wrapped up. They would, spoon feed you the overall story about Mulder and his sister. I still think Series 1 of Lost. I still think Series 1 of X-Files. I still think Series 1 of Twin Peaks are some of the best television ever made. Incredible first chapters, but just nowhere to go from there.
Yeah.
Nowhere to go.
Absolutely. Overstaying your TV welcome. Will Blossom do that?
Perhaps it already has. You want to jump into this?
Let's do it. Season 1, Episode 9, Curtis. It's called Tough Love. First aired March 4th, 1991.
There's a lot of things tough about this episode.
I can't wait to get into it.
I'm very excited to get your feedback of this. This might be one of the episodes I've been most excited to review, because I don't know where you're going to land on here.
Well, I can tell you that going into it, I was very excited, because anytime there's like a heavy Nick and Anthony storyline, I'm all in. I think they're probably my 2 favorite characters on the show.
Wow. That's really fascinating. You know who my favorite character is so far?
Who's that?
Joey.
Yeah, I mean, I like Joey. Don't get me wrong.
I think that was just because I went into this show assuming Joey had absolutely nothing to offer but the dumb guy comedic relief lines.
Right, that's fair.
So every time he gets a moment, I'm just so surprised, because I just assumed that's been the Joey character with my little Blossom knowledge I've had for 30 years or 20 years, whatever, up till a few weeks ago. I'm really excited when they throw Joey a bone. I'm actually realized I just only have the second half of my notes in front of me, so I'm going to find my first half and give me the synopsis.
Okay, well, actually, I have an interesting take on the synopsis this week.
Oh.
Because we've been calling out the Disney Plus guy on his bullshit for 9 weeks in a row now. And I feel like it's not deserved. So I'll read the synopsises and then I'll tell you what I discovered.
Okay.
So on Disney Plus, Nick tells Anthony to get a job or get out.
That one lands.
Yeah, and it's pretty similar because the TV database says Nick gives Anthony an ultimatum. Get a job or get out of the house.
Despite the Disney Plus's guy's least amount of effort as usual, he actually nailed it this week.
Right, except that Disney Plus didn't write these synopsises at all.
What?
So I looked up home distribution for Blossom, and Blossom came out on Disney Plus in Canada and Hulu in the US, both in March of 2021. The synopses on Hulu and Disney Plus are the same. However, the entire series was released in 2018 on iTunes. So I went onto iTunes to check the episode descriptions, and they are the exact same word for word as they are on Hulu and Disney Plus. So as far as I can tell, these synopsises started on iTunes.
Salute, my friend. That is some next level sleuthing. Well done.
Well, I had to figure it out for sure because we've talked a lot of trash.
No, that's great. So apologies to the Disney Plus intern. It's the iTunes that's a bitch.
Yeah, they were just copying and pasting from iTunes. So I don't know who's lazier.
Wow.
It all comes back to ripping on Disney Plus people.
That's actually true. If you're working for Disney Plus and you're just copy and pasting those lazy things from iTunes, yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I thought we'd have a revelation this week, but we're just back to trashing on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Nah. Let's throw iTunes in there. Let's blame Apple.
All right, did you find your notes?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, take us away, man.
Episode 9, Tough Love. As usual, it asks me if I want to skip the intro, and I do not. I rock out to Dr. John, and this week, as Blossom straddles the chair and tips back, I divert my eyes to the upper right-hand side by her cat picture. Holy crap, there's a picture of a screaming skull. Has that always been there?
I don't know.
There is a skull in the intro to Blossom. Go look at the pictures, unless my mind's playing tricks on me and I've got that, like, those mind's eye puzzles where if you stare at it long enough, it turns into something else. But I swear, there's a picture of a screaming skull on her wall. Here's the big moment. Written by Josh Goldstein and Jonathan Prince.
I also took note of that this week.
Big shoes to fill after last week's duo. Let's jump into it. Set the scene, Sal.
So Nick is on the phone talking to someone named Marty, telling him that he's sorry and to keep him in mind for next time. So it appears that Nick is turning down a gig or lost out on a gig. He seems pretty pissed regardless. So he yells for Anthony, who comes waltzing into the kitchen, looking like he belongs in Del Boca Vista. I don't know what he's wearing this week.
And that right there is tough love already.
He's dressed like an 80-year-old Florida man. I feel like there wasn't enough things. Like, we have a lot of things that we point out now, 9 weeks in, and I feel like there wasn't enough things to talk about this week.
No, dude, I'm with you.
All right?
Yeah, that's good. We're kind of on the same page, but let's just push through this, okay? Nick goes in on him.
Yeah.
We address the fact that Anthony does sleep all day and stays up all night. We finally have confirmation on that, so that's a good thing.
We do. Check mark on that.
Nick says maybe it's time to not do that and get a job.
Right. Well,
So
the whole
happened
reason
was-
that Nick is like mad at him in the first place is that this guy Marty called for Nick to book him for a gig, and he left the message with Anthony, and Anthony forgot to give it to him.
And it started like half an hour ago. But the weird thing is that Anthony doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
He just kept making his cereal or whatever and was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So I kind of started on Nick's side. I was like, yeah, like, it's one thing to be battling addiction and staying with your dad, but to bring everybody down is kind of not cool as well.
Yeah.
So this show already has a weird tone. Like, just straight out of the gate, I wasn't feeling it. They just weren't acting like themselves.
That's,
I don't know, it just-
normally I try to defend Nick because, as we have determined, he is TV's coolest dad, but I just felt off in this one a little bit.
Yeah. And he's like, what do you do? And Anthony says, well, I go to meetings twice a day to stay sober. And I'm like, is that a thing? Do you go to AA twice a day?
I wrote that too. I said, is that a lot?
And are they at like midnight and 4 a.m.? Because he sleeps during the day. So when is he going to 2 meetings a day?
Good point. I don't know.
It just, there is no attention to detail in this episode. They're just saying stuff that doesn't connect. And then Nick says, maybe you should start going to meetings where people have names.
Where people have last names.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I missed a word. Where last name is, yeah. I kind of got the joke, but
it was kind of a flop of a joke anyways, and the audience didn't really laugh at that either.
And then he tells him, you take from this household and you don't put anything back in. I'm like, Jesus.
I mean, that's kind of a fair point, but...
Yeah, but I'm a little gun-shy to really go in either way because I've never really battled addiction or had to coach someone who has battled addiction. But I meant to like find someone and ask if this tough love is a line you have to hit with someone. It just seems like the light switch went off over one gig.
Right.
And I don't know if it was because Anthony didn't care or if this has been building for a while. I felt like a lot was edited out. A lot of like dialogue or something. And just the back and forth just seemed uneven.
A little bit, yeah.
Anthony tries to defend his ability to help out around the house and says, I empty the kitty litter box every week. And Nick says, Scruffy died 6 years ago.
Yeah, and then I wrote, did Blalf eat Scruffy?
Throw back to Alf. It's like, so I get the joke, but so is someone in the Russo house like crapping in the litter box? Just, that joke shoved into the middle of this scene was just, there's no rhyme or reason to this scene of what's happening and what's being said.
I found the next part odd too. Blossom walks into the kitchen. She just comes in and starts putting her 2 cents in and taking Anthony's side right away.
And then it turns into a lisp joke.
Yeah, because Blossom starts speaking Shakespearean.
Yeah, what is happening?
Another joke that didn't land.
Right? Why are they putting jokes in the serious moment? Just let the serious moment play for like 3 minutes and move on.
Well, that's all up to Josh Goldstein and Jonathan Prince.
They're blowing it big time.
So far they are.
I think that's what's made the episodes work in the past. When it's a serious moment, it's a serious moment. Then they have moments of levity. This is like cramming jokes that don't land in a serious moment, and it's not working. It's not working at all. So he finally tells Anthony to get a job.
He says to Anthony, you gotta leave the nest, Tony. The actor who played Tony got his start on Empty Nest.
Oh, nice. I'm also convinced that happened by accident. There's no way this writing team was clever enough to put that in there. Or else that was the one thing they had, and they wrote the entire scene around that, leading to that moment. I'm with you, though. Usually I'm finding funny angles and comments, but there's nothing happening here.
Anthony just kind of fades into the background after this part.
Yeah.
And then they bring up how Blossom has to come up with a song for music class. She makes a joke about how if she doesn't pass, is Nick going to kick her out of the house too?
Yeah.
And I was like, is that meant to be joked about? Like,
right?
It seems so
I kind
weird.
of had my head in my hands at this point. It was like they put all the names of the characters in a bowl and picked them back out with different personalities. Like, someone just hit a giant reset button. Somewhere in here I wrote, I don't think these two have watched any of the previous episodes of Blossom. I just thought they'd take a stab at it.
You might be right. That's what it feels like.
You know? It's like the people that made the Super Mario Brothers movie. They're like, nah, we got it. Do you want to play the game or read the comic book? Nah,
it's fine.
Brother Plumbers, we got it. So Blossom has to come up with a song for her music class.
Yes.
I don't know if a high school level music class would expect you to make a song, but whatever. It's usually like scales or learn a piece of music, but to come up with an original piece of music is pretty intense.
So she starts playing this song, and then Nick says, you're playing I Got You, Babe. And then he tells her to slow it down.
He's kind of a dick about it, though.
He tells her to slow it down, and then starts singing along to I Got You, Babe.
He's like, I loved it when you did it, and I loved it when Sonny and Cher did it. And I wrote, what's your problem today, bro?
He said, There's only 2 chords in that song, and they both belong to Sonny Bono. And I was like, is that random shots fired?
Right?
Is that another music vendetta that Paul Perlov has?
Just you wait, my friend.
There's more.
You think that'd be a bridge to nowhere, but it's not.
Right.
It's a bridge to not much, but it's not a bridge to nowhere.
It's a bridge nonetheless.
Yes.
Blossom says she talked herself into Mr. Fisher's composition class by telling him she could write original music. She has until Monday or she'll flunk out and have to go to Mr. Suter's pottery class. Then Anthony chimes in with, I got suspended for making bongs in that class. And at this point, the crowd loves it, and Nick almost looks directly into the camera.
I know, and then he has this exaggerated roll of his eyes. Okay, first of all, when you asked if they take random shots at Sonny Bono, I actually wrote, we get the opposite of random shots this week with random praise.
Is it?
I feel like Anthony's drug addiction timeline is completely out of whack. Like, does that line up? How old was he again when he started using?
Well, he said he was in high school. He talked about coasting through high school, being on drugs, and the parents not noticing because they were in the middle of getting divorced.
Yeah, you're right. He was. Okay, nope. Thumbs up. That checks out.
At this point, Nick reminds Anthony that he has until Friday to find a job or he has to find a new place to live. And that's the end of this scene.
And again, I don't know enough about like addiction counseling. And when I say enough, I don't know anything about addiction and drug counseling. But that gut feeling seems like a bad move, right?
I mean, sure. Yeah, just throwing him out on the streets is essentially inviting him to fall off the wagon, I would think.
You would think, like, wouldn't the best thing for Anthony to do right now is just start using again and hit the reset button and get another 6 months out of this?
Fair enough.
Like, if this guy is still struggling to stay sober, that's, I don't know, that's pretty cold. All right, so it's late at night and Blossom is playing the piano again. Anthony recognizes as I Got You Under My Skin by Frank Sinatra. Mayim is not feeling this storyline either. She's like half acting.
Oh, yeah.
She knows this is stupid, and she's not wrong. She's not even trying to make gold out of it. She knows, and I can't blame her. Like, you're too stupid to make original music, Blossom. We'll go back to that joke 6 times. Blossom asks about the job search.
Yep.
And then she's like, I'll do your resume. What do you want to do? And he wants to make $1 million a year laying on the beach in Tahiti with the Laker girls and Ted Koppel. And she looks at him, he says, Ted Koppel, so he has someone to talk to. Now, what's the joke there, Sal? Are the Laker girls too dumb to have a conversation, or will he be too busy plowing them all day that they won't talk during sex? I'm serious, what's the joke?
I don't know if that's on me that I understood that and just didn't question it, but you are 100% right.
But then it's like a setup for the next joke. Because she tells him he has to lower his expectations. He says, okay, $100,000 and the Golden Girls and Maury Povich.
Right.
I thought that was a slow clap. Again, It doesn't make sense. It's like they had... this whole episode is like that. It's like they're hitting the notes Blossom usually hits, like the series, but the jokes just aren't fully developed or well thought out.
Yeah.
It's typical Blossom jokes between the characters, but they're just so shallow.
Yeah, I feel like the alternate line... maybe there was alternate lines and they might have been better. Like they chose the wrong ones. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So Maury Povich can suck it this week, I guess, because he's no Ted Koppel.
No.
And who is Ted Koppel? Isn't he a news guy?
Yeah, he was a news anchor.
And Maury Povich is like an interview person.
Yeah.
So how are those comparable? He can't have a news anchor, so he's going to have a talk show host, I guess. There's just so many moving parts to this stupid joke.
It was really never written to be looked into this much in depth.
Yes. Here's where I left 6 lines, wrote, what is happening here? Then left another 6 lines. Blossom looks at the classifieds. Anthony isn't sweating it because Dad won't kick him out.
Right.
He doesn't want to deliver Fatty's pizza. And she says, she's already down a mother. She doesn't want to be down a brother as well. And that had some weight to it suddenly.
Yeah, she laid it on thick there. But she really is trying to help him because she doesn't want him to get kicked out.
I felt like Mayim was, all right, here's a line that actually is in concert with the character, so I'm actually going to deliver this, even though it's at the tail end of like a fat joke.
Right.
Because Fatty's Pizza, har, 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 right? Right? So Anthony takes a beat and decides he's down with Fatty's after. Sorry. I didn't even realize I wrote that. So Anthony takes a beat and decides he's...
You can't even get through it.
He's down with Fatties after. Oh, it feels good to laugh again. Okay. Anthony takes... Can we make a down with Fatties shirt? have a pizza box on it. No one's gonna get that though. Was there a logo when he's working there later? Okay, I'm jumping ahead. Okay, one more time. Fourth time is a charm. Anthony takes a beat and decides he's down with Fatties after all. I can't do it. Sorry.
Why don't we just say Anthony agrees to call Fatty to inquire about the job?
Say it, Sal. I can't.
Anthony decides he's down with Fatties after all. Oh, that's good stuff.
I don't know why that's so funny, because I've been so miserable up till now.
It's because we have nothing else.
But don't worry, we go back to the piano joke, this time with Joey.
Yeah, he says, "You're playing Michael Jackson. That's Billie Jean." And then Blossom snaps back and says, "No, it's not." And then realizes it's Thriller. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joey's holding what originally I thought was a surfboard, because I only caught a quick glance. And then I was like, oh, he's holding plywood. Joey says that he has a date with an older girl, and she thinks that he's over 21. And Blossom says, clearly she hasn't spoken to you yet. And Joey says, it's just a physical thing. And the crowd loves it, and a girl in the crowd catcalls him.
Yeah, I wrote that down. She goes, ah! I wrote, it's fun to think about some girl in the studio audience, like planning her entire vacation or trip around being in the studio audience for a taping of Blossom with the hopes of hooking up with Joey Lawrence.
Right.
That right there, that is the Netflix documentary I want to see. This girl's like home movie footage of her planning to sleep with Joey Lawrence and just like packing and talking about it, documenting the drive and like the plane ride and the airport, just putting together this fantasy that she's going to pull this off.
Right.
That's the Netflix documentary I want to see.
Oh my God.
If I could go back for 1 second though.
Yeah, go for it.
In between the last scene and this scene where she's playing the piano with Joey, we get this weird out of place guitar riff as we go from scene to scene.
Oh, I might have noticed that actually.
Yeah, it's just like, what? As if there wasn't enough weird and off about this show. Hey, let's have a noodling solo between the scenes. Right? Yeah. One of the writers was like, all right, I call this sweet lick the Laker girls are stuck up bitches. Wow. The girl cat calls Joey Lawrence.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
And then he says he needs a camera for a fake ID. And what he's actually holding is a cardboard sign of a fake ID. And he wants to be Ralph Steinberg from Dearborn, Michigan. It's kind of like what Rusty does in Vegas Vacation. Like he's got like the big cardboard of an ID, and then he's going to stand in front of it like he's having his picture taken. And I guess he would have it laminated like Nick Papagiorgio.
I have to say, Joey Lawrence is fire in this episode. He is the only one taking this lazy script and turning it into gold. Just the way he slumps down and leans against the giant thing and does that smile is hilarious. Like, it popped me. He's he's the only one that's making this work this week. I was so excited for this scene. This felt like it usually feels for the first time this episode. So salute to Joey Lawrence for making, what is it? Chicken salad out of chicken.
That's the exact phrase I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah. So he gets my salute.
It's very
so far
Stone
this
Cold
week.
Steve Austin of you.
Yeah. I can't. No. Keep going.
All right. Where the hell are we?
Anthony comes in.
Oh, yeah. He has a pretty funny joke here.
But hold on. He comes in, and what's his reaction to seeing the giant ID?
He says, wow, this guy must have a huge wallet.
Okay.
I laughed.
And again,
I laughed.
that joke, yeah, but it's like 70% there. You know?
I just laughed because it's a dad joke.
Fair enough. I feel like other writers could have done more with that joke. Like, it landed, but
I agree with you. But I
it's
laughed
so
based on the
the
fact
nose.
that
There's-
it's such a cheesy joke.
But we are just so far under the line that I'll give that joke credit for actually... At least that joke makes sense.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So... But Joey, completely unfazed like a true narcissist, and continues on like this is a good idea.
Yeah.
I wrote, because it is. And they're ragging on him, and Joey just shuts him down. He just keeps grinning through it all, and he says, in a few nights, Beth's gonna roll over and say, "You were great tonight, Ralph Steinberg from Michigan." Joey was cracking me, like, so good, Joey Lawrence. Just acting circles around everyone else with this script.
Blossom asks Anthony how his job interview went. He said it was great. And then he starts listing off everything that Fatty ate throughout the night. And then he says at 2 a.m. they got a bunch of calls from some headbangers with cotton mouth. Fatty hit the ovens. I've never seen anyone sweat like that.
I guess that's funny. These two writers went on a coke binge and got turned down by the Laker girls and made fun of some fat cook and sat down and wrote this script. That's the only explanation.
It's the only thing that really makes sense here. So when he went to deliver the pizza, he left the car running and in gear, and then it crashed into a nativity scene in front of a church. It missed the baby Jesus, but it took out 3 wise men and a cow. And Blossom says, who cares about a plastic cow? And he says, it was a real cow.
What? What the f*** does that mean? Like,
Well,
what?
he murdered
Like,
a cow.
I get the joke,
is
but...
what that means.
So was it Christmas? Is it Christmas time in the Blossom verse?
No, because the episode aired in March. But then again, they're singing Baby It's Cold Outside in February, so I don't know what's going on.
Churches don't usually have nativity scenes set up year round, and why is there a cow on a church lawn? It's like Ren and Stimpy wrote an episode or something. These jokes are not landing, and this show is better than this. It was a real cow. Anthony murdered an animal because he didn't put his... How do you get out of a car while it's still in gear?
Yeah.
So he just started running in place and got out of the car. Like, this really just brought it home. So he watched a fat person sweat real hard, and then he delivered pizza to some cottonmouth people at 2 a.m. where he jumped out of his running car and ended up killing a cow. And then he says, it was hard out there trying to be a real person. Yeah, it's not a real person, pal. Those aren't normal things people do. So Nick comes in and asks how the job hunt's going, and Anthony says, I got fired, and Nick is just angry. Like,
yeah, he's not happy.
He technically got a job, so...
He did do what he asked him to do.
Right?
Tony says in another few months he'll be ready to try again.
Who's the bad guy here? For real. I have no idea who I'm supposed to be sympathetic with and who I'm supposed to be cheering for.
It's really hard to tell. It feels like Nick is being overly harsh.
But I feel like Anthony doesn't want a job and he's happy to be a squatter at his dad's house.
Well, then...
And I also feel like Nick is being a bitch, and this is the first time I've seen this be an issue in any episode.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Nick kicks Anthony out of the house. He says he's out.
Yep. That's it. Just like that. He got a job, but he still got kicked out. And then Nick sits down and puts his hand to his chin in thought as the camera zooms in, and that's not the last time we're going to see this camera movement, which is just stupid. You remember the Debbie Downer skits from Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
Right?
Wah, wah.
It's like, totally, it's a living. It's like they're parodying a sitcom in this episode in a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's like they're not trying, or they're trying to make it crappy on purpose. I can't decide. We come back from the commercial break, and Blossom's at her music class, and she finishes her original song. And I'm not falling for it this week. This is a dream sequence.
You did
Everyone
it.
cheers.
Yeah.
Teacher says that was the best original song he's ever heard. And then Mozart comes in and says she stole it from him. And I said, I want this episode to be over, Sal, and we are only halfway.
Actually, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I checked the time a few times throughout the episode.
Right? I don't know if I've done that before.
Are we there yet?
I don't think I've ever checked the time on an episode.
There was one funny line when Mozart walked in here and a kid in the back goes, "Is that Elton John?"
Sure. Blossom gets kicked out of the class and onto the street where Mozart says, say hello to your brother and Milli Vanilli. Okay, say hello to your brother is kind of funny. Like, that's a pretty dark joke, especially if Mozart's dunking on your family dysfunction, right?
Right.
Like, okay, you're on the street, so say hi to your brother, Junkie. Like, alright. But do you know the story of Milli Vanilli?
I do.
They got busted for lip syncing and all that, blah, blah. But then in 98, one half of Milli Vanilli, Rob, encountered a number of personal problems during the album's production. Like, they tried to make a comeback.
Right.
And he turned to drugs and crime, committing a series of assaults and robberies. He was sentenced to 3 months in jail and 6 months in a drug rehabilitation facility in California. His brother bailed him out of jail on the eve of the new album's promotional tour. On the 2nd of April, 1998, Rob was found dead of a suspected alcohol and prescription drug overdose in a hotel room in Germany. His death was ruled an accident.
Yeah.
So let's have some more fun with this on Blossom.
The next part, Blossom is being woken up on a park bench.
It's a dream within a dream. She's sleeping on the street in garbage with Anthony.
Yes, her and Anthony are homeless, and you can tell by Anthony's fingerless gloves.
All he needs is a top hat without a top. And he's
Yeah,
full-on
right.
hobo.
And a bindle.
The bindle, yeah. Absolutely.
They start playing I Got You, Babe, and that's when this cameo happens. A cameo that nobody gave a shit about.
No, they did it wrong. Like, everything about this episode is wrong compared to the previous 8.
Yeah.
They're literally just throwing crap against the wall to see what sticks, and I hate that term or that expression, but that's literally what's happening. You got Sonny Bono, and that's what you do with him? Like, we just had a cameo 30 seconds ago. People are still wondering who was Mozart.
Right.
And now, out of nowhere, we have Sonny Bono, and you're trying to remember why we mentioned him like 10 minutes ago.
He probably has less than 3 seconds of screen time.
Were they making this up as they went along?
I think so.
So Sonny Bono comes out and takes some money out of the guitar case and calls it his royalties, and that's it. And then a cop drags Joey by, and Joey's like, I'm 24 and my name's Ralph. But then, surprise, Nick is the cop, and he says he's going to go throw Joey in the hole. And after watching 7 seasons of HBO's Oz, I know the hole is solitary confinement.
Hey, you know it's actually a weird connection? On Curb Your Enthusiasm, Marty Funkhauser, who is one of the best characters on that show, his daughter on the show was played by Mayim Bialik for years.
No way.
They brought the character back, but she was in transition. He was played by Sonny Bono's and Cher's son, Chaz Bono.
Really?
That's a weird connection.
So she wakes up for the second time, and here we go, the third wake up, whatever. We don't immediately cut. So I hope she goes after her Alf doll again, but no, she leaves her room to go find her dad. Blossom shows up in the kitchen and starts needling her dad in the middle of the night about Anthony. It turns out Anthony is working at an all-night donut shop, so why the doesn't he come home?
Right? And then Blossom makes like a weird joke about, oh, if I kicked my child out of the house, I wouldn't be able to sleep all night either. Like, what balls? What balls
Right?
to say that to your dad?
Thank God Joey's up. It was like the final episode of Seinfeld. I clapped when he made his first appearance on the here. I was like, yay, Joey, come clean up this mess, please.
But then he makes a weird joke too, because he says he was afraid if he slept too long, he'd be kicked out too.
Right? No, that one landed. See what I mean? Like, that's a funny joke. That's good stuff, pal.
And then Nick says it wasn't a snap decision. He really thought about it, and he reached out to all of the support groups that Anthony's a part of, and he talked to some professionals. And then Blossom comes back with professionals, professional wrestlers.
You missed where Joey says, I'm going to make a sandwich, but I promise to pay for it when I'm older and have a job. everyone's just dunking on Nick. They're just piling on him.
Nick asked them both if they've ever heard of tough love, and that's when Joey says, Dad, I swear those aren't my magazines. Vinny hid them under my bed. And I'm like, Blossom's future boyfriend, Vinny?
Yeah, right?
Or does Vinny become the new Bobby and just suddenly every male teenager name that they use going forward is Vinny from now on?
Yeah, you made the professional wrestler comment, which was just, all right, okay. It goes professional wrestlers, Laker girls, as like the two dumbest people in the world. Nick stands up and says, he's bailed Anthony out of everything all the time already. And Blossom says, isn't that what parents are supposed to do? He says they're supposed to help their kids grow up, and that's what I'm doing, and he exits stage left. And am I learning something here? What's happening? Is this the lesson? Was the piano music playing?
Is he right or wrong for doing this? I mean, he does make some good points. Nick doesn't put pressure on him, then he's just going to continue to be in the same cycle and not be motivated to do anything.
I had given up at this point. I think that was a line, and the reason I think that was the worst line and the worst scene of this whole episode is because that's finally what breaks Joey Lawrence. He succumbs to the crappy script because Blossom says, isn't this awful? And Joey agrees, thinking she's talking about his sandwich. The audience laughs, I guess. They thought the sandwich joke was something, I guess.
Yeah.
Joey's an idiot. Say the thing. Okay, they go to the donut shop to see Anthony because they're a couple of teenagers just going to a donut shop at like 1 a.m. to see their brother, right?
Right.
And he's doing well. He's sleeping on Fatty's couch these days. Fatty lets him crash there. Now that he can get free donuts.
Because he's fat.
Right? He loves his donuts.
Yeah.
I thought if we were on different sides of it until now, I took a break. Like, I stopped watching there, and I came back a couple days later and started watching here. And I felt the episode actually was really good in this scene. So I was like, is this on me? Was I in a completely bitchy mood watching the first 3/4 of this episode?
Right.
Because I thought it kind of went back to normal here. It felt like a Blossom episode. The dialogue was suddenly better. It had more of a flow. We lose it again in a few minutes, but for this one scene, everything seems to kind of work out for about the next 4 minutes.
Well, take us through it. What happens?
So they start talking to Anthony, and he says, because it's all cops in there. Is that the thing?
Yeah, so Blossom asks how he likes it. And he says people who come in at this time of night are either enforcing the law or breaking it.
Yeah. Okay, I wrote 1991 in woman form comes in to the donut shop, and all the blood leaves Joey's head. He goes in on cops, and what's the deal with cops? They drink 6 coffees, eat 4 sugar donuts, and then we let them drive around with no speed limit with a shotgun in the back seat. I mean, yeah.
I loved it. Loved it.
That's good stuff. Yeah. So Joey offers the lady, because he thinks it's a prostitute, right?
Yes.
He offers her $18, his watch, and his skateboard. And he says he won't take up too much of her time. I wrote, is this happening? Is he trying to pay for sex with a skateboard?
Yeah.
Like, this suddenly I'm leaning forward, wide-eyed, going, yeah,
you missed though where he introduced himself as Ralph Steinberg from Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah, okay. I'm suddenly transfixed, where is this going?
Right.
He's actually trying to pick up a prostitute. And she asks Anthony if he knows this guy, because he's about to find himself in some hot water. Joey says,
here we go, Curtis. Here it is.
Whoa, a jacuzzi. So
it's the 4th Joey Woe of the series.
Yeah, and Anthony has 3 and Elf has 1.
Excellent. Yes, she introduces herself as Officer Bambi Thompson.
She pulls out a badge, and with 7:07 left in the show, I see a glimmer of what made the last 7 out of 8 episodes a great show. Joey says, "You're a cop," and then he kind of smiles and says, "Don't make enough money as a hooker, huh?" It's just that is the absolute line of the show.
Yeah.
Like, he knows he's screwed, so he might as well just swing for the fences, right?
Yeah.
Loved it.
That was awesome.
That was just, the show just went back on tracks for this short scene. Have you ever been pulled over by a cop and you like try to throw humor out there?
There's no point.
No,
There's
but
no
like
point.
you got to. You always have that hope, and that's kind of like what this represented to me.
Yeah,
The cops,
fair enough.
You know, you try to be all jovial when you get pulled over, like it never works. But
No.
yeah.
Next scene, Nick is arguing on the phone with the mother.
With Madeline.
Yes, about kicking Tony out.
Yeah.
He finds out she's in Paris and she's clearly going on about her opportunities out there, and he reacts like he's punching her through the phone.
And this part just threw me for a loop. Because now they've introduced the mom, and I'm on Nick's side. Because I was like, yeah, screw you. You don't get to weigh in on this. You left.
Yeah.
You know? Who are you to tell him how he's supposed to deal with Anthony? Like,
Yeah.
you have no horses in this race. Then I was like, is that what this is all about? And then I just dug deeper. I was like, is that what this whole thing's about with Nick? It's actually about, it's not even about Anthony. It's about Nick doing something he knows his ex is going to question, and he's got like the chamber loaded and ready to unload on her. Like, it's a setup, so she calls, and then he needs to like unload what he needs to say to her. Because this conversation wouldn't happen normally. They'd have no reason to talk to each other, so he's just going to create this drama so she calls, and then he can tell her off.
You know, I think at this point in the episode, you're giving the writers too much credit, if that's what it actually is.
But I thought maybe introducing the mom character back in is what's going to reunite the family.
Right.
But no, it's all to make the joke about him pretending to punch the phone, which,
yeah.
All right. So Blossom and Joey, they come in hot, and they tell him Anthony's working at an all-night roach donut shop serving hookers and cops, and Joey chimes in, mostly cops. Nick flips out on them for asking if Anthony can come home, but I don't see why he can't, because he has a job.
Right. That was the whole agreement.
Then he takes a beat and asks if he's at least found a place to live. They tell him about Fatty, and Blossom's like, why can't he come home? He got a job like you asked. And once again, Joey Lawrence steps up and says, I've never heard of any parent throwing their own kids out of the house, even if they did something really awful like trying to solicit sex from an undercover cop, but they won't prosecute because he's a minor or something. And the audience doesn't even let him finish before erupting in laughter, as I did.
That was my favorite joke of the entire episode. And
yeah,
the look that he gives to Blossom afterwards, like after he says it, is also hilarious.
Yeah. Just so good.
Yeah. And then Nick
both Blossom and Nick kind of stare ahead.
Yeah.
And I said the train is back on the tracks.
Yeah,
temporarily.
I thought that was great.
Nick asks for some peace and quiet. Blossom says what he did makes sense, but it doesn't feel good. Nick once again looks into the cameras and zooms in and goes, tell me about it. Harumph. Why are they doing this? At least I'm laughing about it now. Yes, it's the Debbie Downer shot.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. And by the numbers, what's going to be the next scene?
Nick walks into the coffee shop where Anthony is working.
Anthony says bye to some cops named Frank and Mac as they go outside to put some boots on Nick's car.
Frank and Mac, that's two Sunny Philly characters.
Right?
And then Nick does like a double take as they're leaving, and he says, hey, isn't that? And then Tony cuts him off and says, yep. The guys that busted me in 86. We're pals now.
And again, that joke seems like it was about 70% baked. Like they had something there and they just didn't know what to do with it. So they just said what they saw and hoped people laughed. And they didn't.
But then it kind of goes somewhere because Anthony says, funny who you meeting here, huh? And then just then, the prostitute Bambi comes up and says, hi, Nick. And then Nick says, oh, hi, Bambi. And then there's sudden realization and kind of like Nick's staring forward, and the crowd is going nuts. They're loving it.
The crowd connects those dots.
I wrote, and one guy in the crowd goes, yeah!
I wrote in caps, I love this show. Yeah, I said the audience comes unglued. Yeah, and girl yells, woo! One guy yells, yeah, like the Kool-Aid man.
Right. And then Nick says he played piano at the policeman's ball.
And I'm torn with that line because they should have just let that hang.
Yeah.
This show was big enough to let us assume that Nick pays prostitutes once in a while.
Yes.
I felt like they probably could have just let that go, and we would have accepted that, and it wouldn't have been thrown off the air in 1991.
Well,
right?
because
they could have got away with that joke.
Because it would have been like, obviously she's a cop, so it's not like she is having sex with people for money. So it's like
That's
obvious
true.
that Nick knows her from somewhere else. But it's just funny that it's implied that Nick picked up a prostitute.
Before we continue on, can I say why I did like when he said, when they justified it and said he plays piano at the policeman's ball?
Sure.
Do you get that reference?
No.
That is one of the most famous cop jokes ever. So what you're supposed to do is when a cop pulls you over and tries to give you a ticket, you say, "Oh, ticket? Can't I just make a donation to the annual policeman's ball?" And the policeman says, "Policemen don't have balls." That's totally... They would not say the policeman ball. Like
that is brilliant.
100%. That's 100% that joke without making that joke. Yeah.
Bambi was played by Jolie Fisher. You know her from a lot of things.
I wrote a little bit about her at the end, but she's the half sister of actress Carrie Fisher, which probably means more to you than it does me. So
I didn't even know that. I didn't even write that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's really all I got about her. And then
I didn't even know that. I wouldn't know her name, but if you showed me a picture of her, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's that lady.
Shout out Jolie Fisher.
Anthony says the fritters are bogus, which I love. That's such a 90s phrase.
Yeah.
He offers Nick some donuts. And then Nick tries to apologize, and Anthony cuts him off and just says that they're cool.
Yeah, and that just ends.
Yeah.
He says Anthony won't take his apology, and they're cool, and then we go too many cooks. My eyes just kind of bugged. I was like, what? All right. I guess he's not moving home. Oh, all right. Sure, why not?
Who knows what's going on at this point?
Usually
Curtis.
I'm celebrating when what I expect is going to happen in the Blossom doesn't happen, but not this time.
No.
It's like not happening for the wrong reasons. It's not happening because it's a well thought out, realistic plot twist. It's just not happening for not happening because these people have never wrote a script before in their life, apparently.
So, Blossom and Joey are in the kitchen, and Blossom is playing back a recording of her song to Joey on one of those old tape recorders. And Joey says that the song stinks, but at least it's original. And then she asks about his fake ID, and they're wrapping up the 2 backburner plots in about 10 seconds.
And I wrote, Joey proclaims that song is completely original, because he's heard every song in the world, and for some reason he's dressed like Luigi.
He is. Yeah, green with the suspenders.
Yeah.
Oh, so amazing.
Anthony shows up for breakfast with donuts, and I guess he is moving home.
You missed the whole part about Joey and his wrapping up the story about his fake ID. So he took this girl to the club, and it turned out the bouncer was from Dearborn, Michigan. And he knew Ralph Steinberg, and Ralph Steinberg owed him money. It cost him $45 to cover for Ralph, and he still didn't get into the club. But he didn't have $45 to offer the prostitute earlier.
Yeah, he thought he could bicker.
Right? You
Joey
mean barter.
knows $40 prostitutes, and that was not.
Barter, not bicker.
No, gotcha. I don't know what the correct term when you're discussing money with a prostitute is.
Not with a prostitute. It's selling anything.
If you're telling me it's barter, I'll
that's
take
not a
your
prostitute
word for it,
thing. That's not a prostitute thing. That's a regular.
Cool, man. I
that's
don't
a regular
know the lingo,
money
Sal.
transaction phrase.
Sal, it's cool, man. I just didn't know the lingo. It's never come up.
There's
never come up.
I don't know the
so.
lingo.
Hey, you be you, buddy.
Don't put this on me. Don't put this on me.
I was gonna say, Joey knows $40 hookers, and that was an $18 hooker. It's not that he didn't have the money; he just knows the stuff.
Fair enough.
Anthony says, "Hey, whoa!" And I wrote, "The whoa counter isn't fun when they say it this many times in one episode."
I didn't even catch that. Whoa.
I didn't even have it in me to count that.
That's how checked out I was at this point.
Right? Then Anthony, because Blossom and Joey kind of start ragging on Nick, but then Anthony stands up for Dad and tells the other two getting kicked out was the best thing to ever happen to me. Really? Okay. Anthony says Nick gave him confidence and his independence, and now he has a date with the best looking cop in the LAPD. And I said, Frank?
Definitely Mac.
I was pretty proud of that one. Thank you.
Well done.
So this scene is overly sappy. He says, I love you, Dad. And Nick has something to say, but then Anthony's late for his date. So he asks Joey and Blossom if they want to hear what he has to say. And, nah. And then Joey punches the brick wall. A star pops out, making him move in double time as he jumps into the sink and goes down the pipe to fight Bowser. Okay, that made sense. I had no idea where I was going when I started that line.
Best ending ever. But really, it just freezes on... It's a freeze frame on Nick's face as he looks into the camera again, or almost looks into the camera
Yeah, because we zoom into Nick, and we get his overacting reaction.
Yeah.
And this time it's a, can you believe these kids? Josh Goldstein wrote for Fresh Prince, Sister Sister, and developed American Dreams. Co-wrote Disney's Jungle Cruise coming out in 2021, and I am not excited for that.
Not anymore.
His resume doesn't even mention this episode of Blossom. He's embarrassed by this episode, and he should be.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Prince co-wrote American Dreams with him and wrote 6 episodes of Blossom and acted in one in 1992. So
Amazing.
we will get a look at this. We will get a look at this asshole one day.
They collabed again on American Dreams?
Do you know what American Dreams is?
I vaguely remember. It was like a... No, I don't.
No, it was like a mid-2000s show. I'm guessing based in like the 50s. My parents were super into it. So that makes me think, it was like, oh, gee, Bobby had too many milkshakes,
Sounds like great TV.
Right?
It actually sounds like the perfect kind of TV that these guys would write.
Right? Just completely depthless. Joey Lawrence saved this episode. He did what he could. And for about those 4 or 5 minutes there, it clicked and it felt like old times. But just everything, like we've said, nothing made sense, nothing connected. The jokes were unfinished.
Wasn't what I was expecting and wasn't what I was really hoping for from this episode.
This is the first really bad episode we've had, I'd say. Which, 1 for 9 is pretty... We're still doing well, but this is like... I kind of had a flashback of being like, this is kind of what I thought the show was going to be before we started. And that's why it was such a pleasant surprise and a breath of fresh air that it was
when it wasn't
punching
this.
So far above its weight of what I was expecting this like teenage girl sitcom from 1991 to be. And I think that's why this one just stings even more. Because God, I hope it doesn't become this.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Aren't you a little afraid of that? Aren't you a little afraid this is...
Nah, man, I have faith. Take us to our counts, Curtis. What do we have? Who's in the pit? What's our woe counter at?
I didn't even finish with that. I was just so happy to slam my laptop shut and go walk around my room. Who's in the pit this week? Who is Bambi?
The only character that I think would go into the pit would be Bambi, but is she even worthy of the pit this week?
I don't think she's worthy of the pit.
All right, well then the pit remains hungry this week. Yes.
Hungry, yes.
The pit is
just
hungry.
Like my appetite for quality television.
And we add another woe to the woe counter. Joey 4, Anthony 2, Alf 1. Do you have anything to end this episode off on a happy note? Because the last 2 episodes, we've both said that they've ended on duds. I don't want to end on a downer note this week, man. Give me something. Give me something here.
I would smash my fingers with a hammer to end like we did the last 2 episodes after seeing this show. I was wrong. I fall on my sword, and I pray for forgiveness for besmirching the way the last 2 episodes ended. I did no idea how spoiled I was, how good we had it. We were living in the sun, we had no idea. We had no right to critique the ending of those last 2 episodes. We're like Shakespearean plays compared to this drivel. Not a fan of these 2 writers. I can't wait to see that one guy acting in a 1992 episode. I'm going to find him, and I'm going to watch that frame by frame and be like, what is wrong with you? How are you there and I'm here?
Make note of it.
But let's do it. Okay, something super fun, something positive. What's next week?
Episode 10. We're down to the final 5 episodes of season 1. It is titled Such a Night.
Hey, that sounds like hijinks are going to ensue.
Oh, and you know what else? This episode didn't have 6.
Oh my god, it didn't have 6. Props to Jenna Von Oy. There it is. Jenna Von Oy, the smartest actor of the group this week by getting the hell out of Dodge, you know?
She's going to bring it next week and save us all.
So Anthony takes a beat and decides he's down with fatties after.